Hi, I'm Mark Smith. I'm a social scientist for the Social Media Research Foundation. I make maps that are based on the connections among people in social media. So a lot of people will tweet, or they'll post, or they'll blog, they'll like and link and do all of those things. And what these maps do is connect all of those linkages into a single picture. And when you put all the pieces together, what you learn is that not everybody is situated in the same location. Not everybody is the same. Oh, it's a great event. Social discovery is definitely the new trend, and we have a remarkable group of people here. They are actually doing social discovery services, so I think we're hearing it from the horse's mouth. This is really how people communicate with each other about things that they're going to transact.
Chris O'Brien, business and technology columnist, San Jose Mercury News. I was really intrigued with the panel we just had. I think it's a really interesting moment, as I said up there, for social, because that meta idea has taken a hit this summer, and yet it's clearly transforming the web and the way we interact, and that has to have implications for commerce. You have to believe that somebody will figure out how to really leverage that in the coming months or years and make it much more dynamic. Everywhere you go, everyone is dealing with either the onslaught of data or the potential data, and if you don't learn how to use that, if you don't learn how to access it and manipulate it and read it and really build it into what you're doing, you're going to be at a huge disadvantage. And obviously, some of that stuff can get pretty heady in terms of the technical nature of it, but at the same time, you really can't afford not to get involved and understand that stuff. There's a wealth of information out there people are voluntarily sharing, and that's the amazing thing about social, right? You're not having to take the pride out of their hands or convince them to do it. People are out there willingly sharing information about what they do and who they're connected to. So they're putting this out there, and it's sort of up to everyone else to figure out how to build that into what they're doing.
Igor Shoifot, also known as the Dude, started buttonholing me, and we had wonderful conversations about what one needs to do to go viral, and my answer to almost everybody was that you shouldn't think about things that are too complicated, even though they sound like sophisticated things. You should think about the basics. Where your users are, where to do the seeding, what it is that they love or may love about your product and about your service, what incentives, non-monetary incentives, to give them so that the product would go viral, and last but not least, what is the user workflow, how to make sure that user at the right times, in the right places, is given viral tools for the product to go viral. One thing that went me really go wow about this conference is the level of the participants who know what to take out of the conversations with other people, and I think I learned today at least as much as I talked. I spoke with a couple of people, people who were investors, people who had startups. Several people came over to me with questions about what to do with their startups to make sure that they're growing. And I liked, on the one hand, how serious and how deep they were in terms of what it is that needs to be done for their product to scale. What I think everybody needs to do is to look at their products, look at their customers, think about what would make their users go viral. I probably talked to 12 people or so, and every single conversation was wonderful. Either people sharing their from the trenches stories with me, or people saying, hey, we have this great idea, we know people like it, but how do we scale it?
Dave Copeland, staff writer for ReadWriteWeb. I think in terms of the industry, I think it would be interesting to come back a year from now and see how much of a bigger room this needs. I think that the people that are here are either the people that are leading the way or want to lead the way. Social discovery is not something, it's not a term that's making it onto a lot of people's radar screens yet. Okay. A lot of people are doing it without really even knowing they're doing it, but I think a year from now it's going to be that buzz point. It's going to hit that tipping point where everybody is going to realize they have to be doing social discovery or they're going to sink. I think, the one that really got most of the gears turning for me was Brian Bowman's session, because it's kind of one of these things I've been thinking about. There's always been something with this online dating model that just seemed to be missing a big component. And that big component is the social component. Before the internet, we either went to dive bar, we kind of relied on our social contacts to introduce us to people, or make sure we stayed away from the wrong people. And I think it's a really good case study. Social discovery is really changing the game. It's really reinventing the way these businesses that really have been around since the dawn of the World Wide Web, like online dating, are really being remade. And again, it goes back to my point. If you're not at this conference, and if you're not talking about this a year from now, you've missed the boat. It's too late.
My name's Abraham Bagherjeiran. My company is called TrulyShare, and I am the founder. It was good to see that a lot of people that are in the space that I have heard of but never met, but people who are have a lot of experience in building these startups. I like the information about the viral marketing. I think I'm going to try to see if I can do some of that for our app. It's interesting to see other people's opinions about where they see the future of social commerce and social discovery in general.
Justin Parfitt, CEO of HeyLets. I really enjoyed the one on social shopping. I thought that was interesting to see how the conversation around that's developing.
Okay.
So I enjoyed it, but I just enjoyed the interactions as well, because there's a lot of people here. Social discovery hasn't even been defined yet properly. And to see all these different interpretations slowly coalescing into a common understanding is really interesting. I think that's the main benefit for me today. So this has been a very interesting conference. It's been interesting to see this whole field develop. There were some great speakers, especially on virality, the developments in social shopping. Met CEOs, founders, influential journalists and opinion makers. It was a great environment to understand the whole field better.
Robert Yao, Director of Products at WalMartLabs. I think all the different panels, the different opinions and different feedback that people have in terms of social discovery. I think a lot of the different feedback that I've seen, the different opinions, we'll take all that into essentially, think about it. Actually, it's been across the board. I'm seeing founders, I'm seeing marketeers, service providers. So it's been across the board. I think just hearing different feedbacks, the fact that social discovery is such an early stage, they're having the different feedback, different opinions, and they're different too. And I don't mean that everyone has their own opinions. So that's been very interesting.
So I'm Lindsay Riddell. I'm a venture capital startup and clean tech reporter for the San Francisco Business Times. It's really interesting. I think we put together a pretty fascinating panel. Social discovery is a fascinating topic, really up and coming in the Bay Area. I also think this people discovery space is just blowing up. There are tons of companies in the Bay Area and certainly outside of the Bay Area that are working on this holy grail of connecting people who don't know each other around similar interests. I think one thing that stuck out to me is that all of these companies are fascinating and well run. They all have the same challenge, which is how to make people pay to meet strangers. And I think that no one has quite figured out the best way to do that yet, and I'm sure that that's coming.
Daniel Brusilovsky, and I am a summer associate at Highland Capital Partners. We just had a great panel about social video discovery. Obviously, video is a huge space, and it's a multi-billion-dollar market. And with companies aiming to stay relevant, video is one of those spaces. And so we had a very interesting discussion about how can companies stay relevant with advertising and with technology and different products and things like that. It's been a very, very interesting day so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing the other panels. One of the big things is how much money companies are spending on advertising digitally. When we look at the spread between traditional, which is the TV and the newspaper, but there's a whole new form of medium coming out, which is digital advertising. And companies are spending a lot of money, sponsoring tablet applications for full advertising, power and things like that. So, it's a very big shift. I already met two really interesting people who I'm going to bring in and talk to at Highland, meeting some interesting press from VentureBeat and from other different publications. So a great group of folks here.
Adam Spector, CEO and co-founder of Virtrue. Virtrue is an identity verification system for all of your kind of trusted transactional needs. My take basically is that social identity and social discovery in general is one that's growing and growing and growing. I mean, everything's becoming social overall. There are a lot of questions still to be answered, and I think it's a nascent field that has a long way to go. Obviously, the work we're doing with Facebook and LinkedIn and all the variety of services that are out there kind of social 1.0, and I think we were looking for social 2.0, 3.0, and moving forward with things. A lot of the services we're hearing about it.
Larry Magid, I'm the technology analyst for CBS News, and I
co-run a nonprofit called ConnectSafely.org. Well, I came away thinking that someday this is going to be a standing room only conference because this is a really important topic, and I think it's the next big thing. We keep hearing about social discovery out of South by Southwest and all the apps, but to sort of see it come together and to be talking about all the issues is a really important contribution, because at some point a lot of people are going to start taking notice. Not only the general public, but Congress and policymakers have got to take notice of social discovery, because it's a huge feature of the, I'd almost call it Web 3.0, and it brings up a lot of issues, both in terms of privacy and security and safety, that people need to think about. I met some really nice people. I actually just got a great demo of Rings.tv, and I hadn't seen that before. And heard a little bit about some products that were new to me, and a little more insight on products that I've already known about. I think the Ring TV was interesting, and I think what really interests me also is one of the panels where they talked about how media is changing, how people are cutting the cord, and what that means to media companies, what that means for consumers, and what that means for advertisers. And I think there's a very profound change going on in the American media landscape, and anybody who doesn't pay attention to it is going to probably be out looking for a new job, because it's going to impact, as I said, the media companies, the advertisers, consumers, brands. It's impossible to be an active participant in our economy and not be affected by what's happening in the changing media landscape.
You know, it's great to be here at this conference because you get the networking opportunity to meet a lot of the people that you probably would have never imagined meeting. You know, you're meeting some of the top executives at some, blue chip companies, or you're meeting some top executives at some startups that are going to be up and coming.
Sean Ludwig, I'm a staff writer at VentureBeat. There is a very nice, diverse group of people here. And I think what's really important there is that you get a lot of different perspectives on what's important. And I think for me, my takeaway is that there are so many different concerns from so many different sides of the conversation. So there's social discovery, but there's also just so many concerns about social networking, and people have been throwing out the word creepy sometimes, and there's elements there. You have to learn how to restrict and make sure that what you're doing is not alienating your customers. And I think that's extremely important no matter if it's enterprise or consumer. You have to find ways to make sure you are appropriately approaching their information. Founders, CEOs, a lot of product people, and those product people know their stuff. And I really do appreciate, I like that perspective, because I think the CEOs and the founders have a high level kind of look, and then a lot of times the product guys can kind of really dig in deep. And I like that mixture. It's very very informative on two different sides. There are certain companies that I need to look obviously more into being central. I need to spend a little more time with them and learning more what they do. But I've talked to them before. I've been written about them once, and I really do like their company a lot. They do a lot of interesting things. And Nimble seems really interesting. I honestly have not written much about Nimble, but I really am interested in learning more about the process of what they're doing. Social is not going away. And actually, we're just having a conversation very briefly that I can't imagine my regular social life and my enterprise or work life without elements of social in it. If I went to another place and we did not have a social network for our company, I would feel very kind of lost in a lot of ways. I'd be like, I have to use email strictly again for organizing myself. I would feel a little out of place. But we learn how to do these things, and we learn how to depend on them. So in terms of discovery, I think there's tons of new applications, and I can just imagine in 2 years or 3 years there will be so many kinds of applications. There'll be social discovery applications, and it's not going away. It's only going to increase over time.
Jerome, CTO and co-founder of Buyosphere. Buyosphere is fashion suggestions from real people. So we're kind of a visual Quora for shopping in the fashion industry. Pretty much like the conference about virality. Thought there was a lot of great content that I should know more about. Other than that, this conference, it's mostly for networking and meeting great people that I personally get value from conference. And in that aspect, the quality of people and speakers that were here is really great. I was really impressed.
Powell, CEO of Craze. Craze is a mobile application, and the concept is connecting people. based on an interest. We are covering the interest graph. There's something called social graph. We're working mainly on the interest graph. So our goal is connecting people purely based on interests. Everything was very good. I learned a lot of good nuggets that I picked up, and I always like to write notes about ideas that I pick up from someone that said something, because after a while it's gone. And if you don't write it, you'll forget it.